Argentina-France was an instant classic in this year's World Cup final. This was a match to remember where Messi was able to capture the World Cup trophy despite the best efforts of his club teammate Mbappe and France. Argentina dominated much of this game, yet France were never able to be counted out. Let's take a look at how Messi and Argentina tactically outwitted France, but how France were still able to stay in the game no matter what. First, I wanted to give an initial overview and my thoughts on the match before hopping into the analysis. Looking at Didier Deschamps and France are a team that is built on their individual quality and strength at every position. France has a team full of superstars, and that means that they don't necessarily have to have the best tactics in the world to beat almost any international team. Deschamps, the coach of France, is a fantastic man manager who has been able to keep the previously disastrous French locker room under total control and thriving ever since he took over. It's not easy to maintain a locker room that was historically toxic and then turn it into a group of superstars who get along and even thrive together. When it comes to his match tactics and adjustments, I would describe Deschamps as more of an old school type manager. I don't think that Deschamps is technically as cute as some managers in this tournament, including Scaloni of Argentina, Regragui of Morocco, and Tite of Brazil. And Deschamps doesn't have to be because of how individually great his squad is, so even with the most basic tactics, his squad will be able to beat most international teams. Why I think Deschamps is more of an old school manager is because he's extremely good at knowing when to substitute players on and off and how to maintain squad composure. Deschamps made some great substitutions in this match that would look confusing to many people, but Deschamps is not afraid to make changes when he realizes it's what the game needs, and that's why France have been so successful under him during his tenure. Deschamps can substitute superstars and bring in key players in and out of the lineup while still keeping the squad's faith in his decisions. Looking at Scaloni in Argentina, Scaloni has made some key tactical changes to his team throughout the tournament. Like Deschamps, Scaloni is not afraid to drop players from his starting lineup and adjust his team on a game-to-game basis to prepare for each opponent. However, Scaloni is much more tactically adept than Deschamps, and usually his team changes will incorporate changes in tactics as well. Scaloni switched from the 4-3-3, 4-4-2, and even 3-back systems throughout this tournament, dropping and bringing in new players in each match. His inclusion of Di Maria in the final, despite Di Maria not featuring in the previous two games, the quarterfinal and the semifinal, was a major example of this. The inclusion of Enzo Fernandez and Julian Alvarez into the squad after their impressive substitution displays early on in this tournament is another key reason why Argentina were so deadly at this World Cup. Scaloni wasn't afraid to drop his normal starters in the lineup to bring in Enzo and Julian, who were having great tournaments. Scaloni's tactics were also key in Argentina's progressing and winning of the final, and this final showed just how well Argentina were prepared and were coached. Let's take a look at the match. This match can be looked at tactically in three different phases. The first phase being the first 45 minutes to the first 70 minutes, the second phase being from that 75th minute to extra time, and the third phase being the extra time and penalty phase. The first 45 minutes of this game were all Argentina. Argentina were creating a ton of chances over France, and their tactics were the main reason for this. France came out in a 4-3-3 formation, which we have seen on a few occasions from them at this World Cup. This has Tchouaméni as the single pivot, with Rabiot and Griezmann as the other further forward midfielders. The squad has remained the same squad that France have been using throughout this tournament, just with the change of formation. It was the defensive structure from the attack, midfield, and defense that created the most problems for France throughout this first half. Argentina were also using a 4-3-3 this game, a formation they have used with Di Maria as the left winger, which has DePaul, McAllister, and Enzo Fernandez as the midfielders. Argentina's midfield was much more of a flat 3 midfield, with Enzo Fernandez dropping in as the pivot when Argentina were in possession. On paper, Messi was playing as the right winger in this formation, but his position was very much sort of a second striker, playing in the half spaces, staying between France's midfield and defensive lines. This is where France's main problem of the first phase began to show. The midfield, attack, and defense were not able to be properly spaced at all times, which led to gaps between the lines that opposing players can't exploit. Messi was a key player in exploiting this gap left by France during the first half, and we've seen this problem with France throughout the World Cup, but teams haven't really been able to exploit it because of France's great individual defenders. If you want to look at someone in this match who was the main example of this disconnection, Dembele was taken out of this match after only 42 minutes, and I believe one of the key reasons was because he wasn't dropping in effectively to help his right back Koundé when Di Maria was in those 1v1 situations. This even resulted in the first goal, as when Dembele did drop in to defend Di Maria 1v1, he didn't effectively engage Di Maria, got beat, and then gave up the pen. You could see Messi occupying the space throughout the entirety of the match. Any longtime watcher of Messi will recognize this as Messi's favorite spot on the pitch, where he can create, shoot, and dribble onto goal with his favorite left foot. A lot of Argentina's attacks go through Messi. and France's midfield was not in sync with their defensive line to pick him up when Argentina were attacking. Another reason why this France midfield and defense struggled was Di Maria's impact on the left side. Something you may have noticed during the game while watching is Di Maria having tons of space on that left flank. He had a standout performance for Argentina during this first half, and his impact was huge due to his great 1v1 ability and Argentina's tactics. With a few midfielders and 2 attackers central in Alvarez and Messi, Di Maria looked to hug that left sideline and provide the width for the Argentina attack. Argentina could then look to play quick combinations centrally or find Messi in that free space, who often played Di Maria out wide in a favorable 1v1 matchup for him. This is why Argentina were very dominant offensively early on, and why Argentina got their first goal of the game through Di Maria. France were uncharacteristically poor during this first half, not registering a single shot during it. This was largely due to Argentina's effective defensive block. Argentina were evenly matched when defending their mid-block, and they weren't afraid to have their defense push forward or their offense drop deep to help numbers when marking the French attackers. Their lines were also much more effectively spaced, unlike this French team. This was a problem that France was dealing with throughout the first half. Argentina looked to man mark centrally, and they were very comfortable because France had both Rabiot and Tchouaméni often dropping deep to try and progress the play. This only left Griezmann in the midfield that Argentina had to mark, as Mbappe, Dembele, and Giroud were staying high and they weren't really helping too much in that French build-up. This was one of the main reasons why I think Giroud was taken off so early. He wasn't being effective with his hold-up play and dropping into the midfield to help with build-up, and he was dropped for Thuram. Argentina continued to close down the French attacks in their mid-block before they could even get close to the box. This way, they were able to prevent France from even getting a shot away during that first half. This trend continued for the entire first half, with Argentina able to abuse that space left open by France's midfield and defensive lines, and Argentina were dominating France 2-0 much until the 70th minute, or what I like to call the second phase of this match. The second phase is where we saw Argentina give up 2 quick goals to France, which brought them right back into the match. Where this phase started was a formation change by Argentina. Acuna was brought in to replace Di Maria, which made sense given that Argentina kind of wanted to protect the lead and convert into a more defensive 4-4-2 they have also used for a majority of this World Cup. Bringing in Acuna completely removed the threat of Di Maria's creativity out wide, and it allowed France to slowly get back into the match. Because Argentina's attacks were coming easy to deal with and more predictable down that right side without Di Maria. Deschamps also brought on Koeman and Camavinga, which were crucial as the fresh legs kept France assured defensively and were more of a threat going forward against an Argentina that didn't sub quite as often. This defensive assuredness led to France creating a quick turnover and putting Koulibaly in behind, leading to their first penalty goal of the match. The second goal came only 90 seconds later, with their fresh substitute Koeman coming back on defense, pickpocketing Messi on that right side, and then France's forwards connecting to beat the Argentine defense with some great link-up play and Mbappe's stunning finish. Now, we haven't talked much about Mbappe, but he is obviously a top player in the world, and this comeback wouldn't have been complete without him. Despite having such little impact on most of the match, not really participating in the match in the first half, elite players like Mbappe tend to stay involved in the game, and they only really need one chance to change the game, and that's exactly what he did. For the rest of the 90 minutes of regular time, Argentina looked to get a goal back, while France was also looking to hit them on the counter, with Koulibaly, Thuram, and Mbappe in behind. The fresh legs of Camavinga and Koeman helped defensively. With a more assured defensive block, France was able to hit them on the counter, but they were stopped by great play from the Argentine backline and keeper. This game was very end-to-end and crazy towards the end, which is usually when most of the tactics go out of the window. Once we got to extra time, we saw the third phase of this match. By this point, much of the game is end-to-end, and tactics sort of take a back seat. The managers are still able to influence the game, however, by making some key substitutions and a little tweaks in their system. The substitutions for Argentina were Paredes, Lautaro Martinez, and Montiel. Paredes added fresh legs in the midfield against a fresher French midfield, and he made a big difference in the middle. Montiel was able to burst up and down the Argentine right side and provide support in attack and defense. Lautaro Martinez also had a major impact on creating chances for Argentina. Lautaro's fresh leg made some killer runs in behind that French backline, even leading to the run that led to Messi's extra time goal. He had a lot more opportunities in behind, but he was unable to convert them. France were very much still looking to use Koulibaly, Thuram, and Mbappe in those 1v1 counterattacking situations, and it was eventually Koulibaly that created the corner for the eventual France free kick in extra time. Overall, Argentina dominated much of this game from a tactical perspective. From a casual fan's perspective, you could kind of tell that Argentina were winning this game. Their defensive structure and ability to create chances had them appear to any fan like they deserved to win the game. You could say that France had a poor game from their perspective, but they were able to bring the game to penalty kicks, and they were unlucky not to score with Martinez's great save in the 121st minute. France created a few chances this game, That's really all they needed to score with how good their team is and how good Mbappe was. This game will go down as probably the greatest World Cup final of them all. I'm glad it was one to remember.